Commander Jack Morrison walked through the massive doors of the Galactic Council chambers on Nexus Prime. The building was huge and made of strange crystal that glowed with soft blue light. He had been to this place many times before, but today felt different. Today he would say things that would change everything between humans and the alien species that ruled the galaxy. Lieutenant Katie Sullivan walked beside him carrying a briefcase full of documents. She looked nervous and kept checking her tablet for messages from Earth. The messages all said the same thing from Director Helen Brooks back on Earth. Do exactly what we planned. Do not back down no matter what they say or threaten. The chamber was filled with aliens from dozens of different worlds. Some looked like giant insects with too many eyes and clicking sounds coming from their mouths. Others were made of rock and crystal and moved very slowly. There were beings that floated in the air like gas clouds inside special suits. Some lived in water tanks that they carried around like mobile homes. All of them were much older civilizations than humanity, and they never let humans forget it. Morrison took his place at the small human section near the back of the room. It was a reminder that humans were considered junior members of this council. They had only joined 15 years ago after the invasion wars nearly destroyed Earth. The aliens had helped rebuild human civilization, but they made sure humans knew the price. Every human colony needed approval. Every human ship needed permits. Every human trade deal required alien oversight. The Council Prime Arbitrator was a tall purple alien named Vex High. He had 4 arms and a voice that sounded like grinding metal. He banged his strange gavel on the podium, and the room became quiet. All the alien delegates turned their attention to the center of the chamber, where a holographic display showed star charts of human space that the Zephyrian ambassador stood up first. It was a tall insect creature with green skin and multiple eyes that moved independently. Its voice was high and sharp like broken glass. The human colony on Kepler 442b has broken the law. They built mining stations in space that belongs to everyone. They did not ask permission from this council. Other aliens began making noise and clicking and humming in agreement. Morrison sat quietly and listened to them complain about human expansion. The avian collective representative spread its feathers and screeched about treaty violations. The granite lords made grinding sounds that meant anger in their stone language. The tidal folk bubbled angrily in their water tanks. Arbitrator Vex High raised all 4 arms for silence. The human delegation will answer these charges immediately. His metal voice echoed through the chamber, and all eyes turned to Morrison. Morrison stood up slowly. He was a career military officer who had fought in the invasion wars when aliens first discovered Earth. He had seen his home planet burning and his people dying. He had watched as these same aliens, who now lectured about laws and treaties, had stood by and done nothing while Earth suffered. They only helped after humanity proved it could fight back and survive. The colony was built on an empty world. Morrison's voice was calm and steady. Our survey teams found no intelligent life, no cities, no farms, no signs that anyone had ever lived there. The planet had good minerals, and we needed them to build more ships and stations for our growing population. Zephyrian ambassador clicked its mandibles in anger. That does not matter at all. The space sector falls under the neutral zone created by Treaty 7 Alpha. Any expansion by any species requires unanimous approval from this council. You humans know this law very well. Morrison felt his jaw tighten. A law that was written without any human input. A law that was voted on when Earth was still rebuilding from the war. A law that treats humans like children who cannot make their own decisions. The chamber erupted in alien voices. Some were angry clicking sounds. Others were musical tones that meant disapproval. The gas beings made whooshing noises inside their containment suits. The rock creatures scraped against their pedestals in irritation. Katie Sullivan whispered urgently in Morrison's ear. The aliens are sending emergency messages to their home worlds. Some are calling for sanctions against human colonies. Others want to send military ships to force humans to obey. Morrison raised his hand for quiet, but the aliens kept making noise. Arbitrator Vex High banged his gavel multiple times before order returned to the chamber. The avian representative was now standing with its wings spread wide in a threat display. The crystalline aggregate was pulsing with angry red light. You humans always think you are special. The Zephyrian ambassador's voice was full of contempt. You are a young species that barely knows how to travel between stars. You have been members of this council for only 15 years. We have been building galactic civilization for over 2,000 years. You will follow our laws or face the consequences. Morrison looked around the chamber, at all the alien faces staring at him with anger and superiority. These beings had watched his species suffer and die. They had let Earth burn until humans proved they were strong enough to be useful allies. They had rebuilt human civilization, but made sure to keep humans dependent and controlled. He thought about Director Helen Brooks back on Earth and the secret meetings they had held for months. He thought about the new technologies human scientists had developed in hidden laboratories. He thought about the defense systems being built around human worlds. He thought about the plan that would either free humanity or destroy it completely. Morrison stepped forward to the center of the chamber. His military bearing made him look tall and strong compared to the seated aliens around him. Katie Sullivan held her breath as she realized what was about to happen. The United Earth Government hereby withdraws from all Galactic Council treaties and agreements. Morrison's voice carried clearly through the massive chamber. Effective immediately. Humanity will conduct its own affairs without Council oversight or interference. We reject your laws. We reject your authority. We reject your right to control human destiny. The silence that followed was complete and terrible. For several seconds, no alien moved or made any sound. The holographic displays flickered as if the technology itself was shocked by what had been said. Katie Sullivan watched as alien delegates began frantically operating their communication. Devices then the chamber exploded into chaos. Aliens were shouting and clicking and grinding and bubbling all at once. Some were standing and waving appendages in the air. Others were flashing with angry colors. The avian collective representative let out a shriek that hurt human ears. Arbitrator Vex High was banging his gavel repeatedly, but no one was listening. Security drones began moving toward the human section, but Morrison stood his ground. Katie Sullivan moved closer to her commander as aliens began pointing at them with claws and tentacles and other appendages. You cannot do this. The Zephyrian ambassador's voice cut through the noise. No species has ever left the council voluntarily. It is impossible. You will destroy yourselves without our guidance and protection. Morrison smiled for the first time since entering the chamber. That remains to be seen. He turned and walked toward the exit with Katie Sullivan beside him. As they reached the doors, he looked back at the chaos they had left behind. The age of human dependence was over. What came next would determine whether humanity would thrive as a free species or face destruction from their former alien masters. But at least they would face it on their own terms, as equals rather than as junior partners in someone else's galactic empire. 3 weeks had passed since Commander Jack Morrison walked out of the Galactic Council chambers. The news had spread across the galaxy faster than anyone expected. On every alien world and space station beings were talking about the impossible thing that had happened. A species had actually left the council. Director Helen Brooks sat in her office on the 60th floor of the new Geneva building, overlooking the rebuilt New York skyline. The city had been destroyed during the invasion wars. But humans had built it back bigger and better than before. The new towers reached into the clouds, and flying cars moved between them like streams of light. Colonel Ryan Martinez entered her office carrying a tablet full of reports from human colonies across the galaxy. He was a veteran of the invasion, wars like Brooks, and had scars on his face from alien weapons. His expression was serious as he sat down across from her desk. The aliens are not taking this well. Martinez began reading from his tablet. The Andromedans have placed blockades around 3 of our main trade routes. They are stopping our cargo ships and demanding to inspect them for illegal technology. The Centauri Federation is sending diplomatic messages every hour asking us to return to negotiations. The Vegan Republic has announced economic sanctions against all human worlds. Brooks smiled, but there was no humor in it. She had expected this reaction from the aliens. Let them try their threats and blockades. How are our defense preparations going? Martinez scrolled through more reports. Admiral Lisa Parker says all defensive platforms are now online around our core worlds. The new shield generators are working perfectly and can stop anything the aliens currently have. Our fleet has been scattered according to Protocol 7, so they cannot attack all our ships at once. What the aliens did not understand was that humans had been planning this moment for years. Every insult from alien delegates had been recorded. Every unfair ruling by the Council had been studied. Every weakness in alien technology had been noted. Humanity had learned to be patient and plan ahead during the long years of rebuilding after the war. The secret preparations had begun 5 years ago when Director Brooks first proposed the independence plan to the Earth government. Hidden research. Facilities had been built on remote worlds. New weapons and ships had been designed using technology the aliens had never shared. Defense networks had been constructed in secret around every human colony. Brooks walked to the window and looked out at the busy city below. Humans were working and living and building their future without asking permission from anyone. Children played in parks that had once been battlefields. Families lived in homes built on ground that had been scorched by alien weapons during the invasion. We knew this would happen. Brooks said without turning around. The aliens have ruled the galaxy for so long, they cannot imagine anyone challenging their authority. But they have forgotten something important about humans. What is that? Martinez asked. We do not give up. We do not surrender. We do not accept being told we are not good enough to make our own choices. Meanwhile, on the Council station orbiting Nexus Prime, the emergency sessions continued around the clock. Arbitrator Vex High had been removed from his position after the human withdrawal disaster. The new emergency arbitrator was a crystalline being named Kelfara, who pulsed with different colors when she was stressed. The massive chamber was filled with worried aliens trying to understand what had gone wrong. For 2,000 years, the Council had maintained order in the galaxy. Species joined and followed the rules, and everyone benefited from trade and cooperation. No one had ever simply walked away before, a Zephyrian ambassador who had started. The confrontation with humans now seemed much less confident. Surely they will realize their mistake and come back. No species can survive alone in space without Council support and protection. But Intelligence Chief Mordock of the Shadow Collective had disturbing news to report. His species lived in darkness and specialized in gathering secret information. The reports from his agents were unlike anything the Council had heard before. The humans have been preparing for this for years. Mordock's voice was like whispers in the dark. They have built secret factories on hidden worlds. Their new ships are faster and stronger than anything we have seen. Their weapons use technologies we do not understand. They have created defense systems that our sensors cannot penetrate. The chamber fell silent as the implications became clear. The Council had always assumed that humans were dependent on alien technology and knowledge. The idea that they had been developing their own advanced systems in secret was terrifying. "How is this possible?" asked the Granite Lord representative. "We monitor all human activities. We have inspectors on their worlds. We control their access to advanced materials." Mordak's response sent chills through every alien delegate. "They have been lying to us for years. The colonies we inspect are fake shows put on for our benefit. The real human settlements are hidden in star systems we have never explored. They have been mining asteroids and planets we did not know existed. On the human colony world of New Arcadia Governor, Beth Martinez was hosting a secret meeting with representatives from several non-council species. These were intelligent beings that the council had refused to accept as members because they did not fit the standard requirements for civilization. The insectoid Hive Collective had been rejected because they shared a group mind. The nomadic Star Wanderers were turned away because they had no permanent home worlds. The Warrior Clan Brotherhood was denied membership because their culture was based on fighting and conquest. But humans had been making contact with these species for months. They offered something the Council never had: respect for different ways of life and genuine partnerships, based on mutual benefit rather than control. The Council claims to represent all intelligent life in the galaxy. Martinez addressed the gathered. Aliens, but they only accept species that think and act like they do. Humanity offers a different path. We believe in freedom and the right of every species to choose their own destiny. The response was immediate and positive. The Hive Collective buzzed with excitement at the possibility of joining a galactic organization that would not try to change their nature. The Star Wanderers saw opportunities for exploration and trade without bureaucratic restrictions. The Clan Brotherhood was interested in military partnerships that would respect their warrior culture. Back on Earth, Colonel Martinez brought Brooks the daily intelligence reports from human agents throughout the galaxy. The news was better than they had hoped for. Our colonies are not just surviving the isolation. Martinez seemed surprised by his own words. They are actually growing faster than ever before. Without council regulations, our terraforming teams can transform planets in months instead of years. Our mining operations are producing twice as much material as before. Our population is expanding at record rates. Brooks nodded with satisfaction. Of course they are thriving. Humans work best when they are free to use their full potential. The aliens never understood that their rules and restrictions were holding us back. The secret to human success was simple. Without alien oversight, they could take risks and try new methods. They could build where they wanted and how they wanted. They could explore dangerous regions of space that the Council had declared off limits. They could push the boundaries of technology without waiting for committee approval. On distant frontier, world's human colonists were turning barren rocks into garden paradises. Families like the Adams were farming on worlds the aliens said were too harsh for life. Engineers like Lara Davis were building cities using construction methods the Council had banned as too dangerous. The most important development was happening in the hidden research facilities. Dr. Steve Johnson's team at the Luna Research Station had perfected fusion reactors that produced 3 times more energy than anything the aliens used. Dr. Nancy Williams had developed new materials that were stronger and lighter than the best. Alien technology. Every day brought new breakthroughs and innovations. Human scientists were finally free to explore ideas that alien regulations had forbidden. They could experiment with dangerous technologies and push the limits of what was possible. The aliens had always assumed that humans needed their guidance and protection to survive in space. They believed that without council membership humanity would collapse into chaos and barbarism. But the opposite was happening. Humans were not just surviving on their own. They were building something bigger and better than anything the Council had created. They were proving that freedom and independence were more powerful than rules and control. The galaxy was about to learn that underestimating human determination had always been a dangerous mistake. 6 months had passed since humanity cut all ties with the Galactic Council. The aliens had expected human civilization to collapse without their guidance and support. Instead, something unprecedented was happening across human space. The colonies were not just surviving, but thriving in ways that amazed even their own leaders. Captain Dan Foster stood on the bridge of the exploration vessel, used Discovery as it completed another survey mission in the Tau Ceti system. His ship was one of dozens now ranging far beyond the boundaries that the Council had set for human expansion. Without alien restrictions, they could explore anywhere they wanted and claim any world that was uninhabited. 17 habitable planets in this sector alone. Dr. Amy Chun reported from her science station. All of them are empty of intelligent life and rich in the minerals we need for construction and manufacturing. The soil analysis shows perfect conditions for Earth. Crops and the atmosphere can be adjusted for human breathing within a few months. Foster smiled as he marked another system for colonization on his star charts. Under Council rules, each of these worlds would have required years of environmental studies and committee approvals. There would have been debates about whether humans deserved access to such valuable resources. There would have been restrictions on how much they could build and how fast they could expand. Now they simply claimed what they found and moved on to explore more systems. Human colony ships were already on their way to establish settlements on the best worlds. Within a year, there would be thriving human cities where empty planets had existed for millions of years. The transformation was happening everywhere in human space. On new Terra Farmer, Pete Adams was using terraforming techniques that the Council had banned as too aggressive and dangerous. He was turning a harsh desert world into fertile farmland by releasing specially designed bacteria into the atmosphere. The process was risky, but it worked 10 times faster than approved alien methods. My grandfather would not believe what we have accomplished here, Adams told his neighbor as they watched green fields spreading across what had been barren wasteland. Just months before, the aliens told us this world was unsuitable for human settlement. They said it would take centuries to make it livable. We did it in 6 months. Engineer Lara Davis was building cities using construction methods that alien safety regulations had forbidden. Her team was erecting massive towers and underground complexes using new materials and techniques developed in secret human laboratories. The structures were stronger and more beautiful than anything the Council members had ever built. We do not have to follow their slow, careful methods anymore, Davis explained to her construction crews. We can build as high as we want and as fast as we can. We can take risks and try new ideas without asking permission from committees that do not understand human engineering. The results spoke for themselves. Human colonies were growing at rates that seemed impossible to alien observers. New cities appeared on empty worlds within months. Industrial complexes capable of building starships and advanced technology sprouted like flowers after rain. The human population was expanding faster than it ever had during the years of Council membership. Dr. Steve Johnson was leading the technological revolution from his laboratory on Luna Research Station. His team had developed fusion reactors that produced more energy than anything in the galaxy. They had created new alloys and materials that surpassed the best alien technology. Most importantly, they had broken the barriers that Council regulations had placed on human innovation. The beauty of our situation, Johnson explained to his colleague Dr. Nancy Williams, is that we are no longer bound by the Council's sustainable development protocols. We can push the boundaries of science and engineering without worrying about alien approval. We can experiment with technologies they consider too dangerous or too advanced for a young species like humanity. Every day brought new breakthroughs. Human ships now traveled faster than Council vessels using improved engines that bent space in ways alien scientists claimed was impossible. Human weapons were more powerful and accurate than anything the galaxy had seen. Human shields and armor could stop attacks that would destroy alien warships. Director Helen Brooks received daily reports of these achievements from her office on Earth. The transformation of human civilization was exceeding even her most optimistic projections. But the most important development was happening on the diplomatic front. Colonel Ryan Martinez entered her office with intelligence reports from across the galaxy. "Ma'am, you need to see this. 12 non-council species have made formal contact with our diplomatic missions. They are asking about joining our alliance as equal partners." Brooks studied the reports with growing excitement. These were intelligent species that the Council had rejected or ignored. The Crystalline Harmony Collective that communicated through musical vibrations. The Mechanical Forge Masters who had built their own bodies from metal and circuits. The energy beings called Light Dancers who lived in the hearts of stars. Each species brought unique abilities and knowledge that could benefit humanity. More importantly, they were all eager to escape the Council's rigid rules and join a more flexible organization that respected different forms of life and culture. What are they offering in exchange for partnership? Brooks asked. Martinez smiled as he read through the proposals. The Harmony Collective wants to share their communication technology that can send messages instantly across any distance. The Forge Masters are offering manufacturing techniques that can build machines and tools from pure energy. The Light Dancers have promised to teach us how to harness the power of stars themselves. This was exactly what Brooks had hoped would happen. Humanity was not just becoming independent from the Council, but was building an alternative power structure that attracted other species who wanted freedom from alien bureaucracy. Meanwhile, the Council was discovering that losing humanity had consequences they had never anticipated. Emergency sessions were being held daily, as member species reported problems that were getting worse with each passing week. Trade networks that had depended on human manufacturing were breaking down. Advanced technologies that human scientists had helped develop were no longer available. Exploration missions that relied on human ship designs and navigation systems were being canceled. The economic impact was becoming impossible to ignore. Arbitrator Kelfara pulsed with stressed colors as she addressed the emergency assembly. The situation has become critical. Human colonies now control 17% of known habitable worlds. Their industrial output exceeds that of our 5 largest member species combined. Their technological development is advancing at rates we cannot match. Intelligence Chief Mordok had even more disturbing news to report. Our long-range sensors have detected massive construction projects throughout human space. They are building installations unlike anything we have ever seen. The energy signatures suggest technologies that are completely beyond our understanding. What the Council did not know was that Admiral Tony Clark was overseeing the construction of humanity's first mobile space cities. These were enormous installations that could support millions of people while traveling between star systems. They combined the best human technology with knowledge shared by their new alien allies. The fortress cities would make humanity truly independent of planetary resources. They could move their entire population if necessary and establish new colonies anywhere in the galaxy. No enemy could trap them on fixed worlds or cut off their supply lines. Governor Beth Martinez was expanding the alliance from her base on New Arcadia. Representatives from 20 different non-council species were now meeting regularly to plan their shared future. The Warrior Clan Brotherhood was providing military expertise. The nomadic Star Wanderers were sharing navigation secrets that opened new regions of space for exploration. Each new member brought something valuable to the growing coalition. The Insectoid Hive Collective had biological technologies that could heal injuries and diseases that human medicine could not cure. The aquatic deep swimmers knew how to extract resources from ocean worlds that other species considered worthless. The Council claims to represent galactic civilization. Martinez addressed a gathering of human and alien delegates. But they have ignored or rejected countless species simply because they were different. We offer something better. A partnership based on mutual respect and shared benefits, where every member contributes their unique abilities to help everyone prosper. The response was overwhelming. More species were sending diplomatic missions to human space every week. They brought gifts of knowledge and technology and asked only for the chance to join an organization that would not try to change their fundamental nature. Back on Earth, Brooks was reviewing expansion reports that would have seemed like fantasy just 1 year earlier. Human space now included over 40 star systems. The population was growing so fast that new worlds were being colonized every month. The technological advances were making human civilization unrecognizable from what it had been under Council control. Most importantly, humanity was no longer alone. They had built alliances with dozens of species who shared their vision of freedom and independence. Together, they were creating something that had never existed in the galaxy before. 1 year had passed since humanity walked away from the Galactic Council. The alien organization that had ruled the galaxy for 2,000 years was now facing the worst crisis in its history. What had begun as a simple dispute over one human colony had grown into something that threatened the very foundation of galactic civilization. Emergency arbitrator Kalthara stood before the great assembly chamber on Nexus Prime. The crystalline being was pulsing with colors that indicated extreme stress and fear. Around her, the representatives of dozens of alien species waited for news that everyone knew would be terrible. The situation has become completely impossible. Kalthara's voice carried clearly through the vast space. Trade networks throughout the galaxy are breaking down without human manufacturing and technology. Our exploration programs have stopped because we depended on human ship designs and navigation systems. 3 of our oldest member species are now questioning whether they should remain in the Council. The reports that followed painted a picture of organizational collapse that would have been unthinkable just months before. The Centauri Federation was demanding emergency economic aid because their industries had depended on human raw materials. The Vegan Republic was facing civil unrest because their population had grown used to human luxury goods that were no longer available. Most disturbing of all were the intelligence reports about humanity's activities. General Voss of the military command stood to address the assembly. His species were natural warriors who had served as the Council's enforcers for centuries. Even he seemed shaken by what their spies had discovered. Human technology is advancing at rates that our scientists say should be impossible. Voss reported, "Their newest ships can outmaneuver anything in our fleet. Their weapons are more powerful than our heaviest battleships. Their defensive systems can stop attacks that would destroy our strongest fortresses." The chamber fell silent as the implications became clear. For the first time in galactic history, the Council was facing a potential enemy that was technologically superior to them. Worse still, the humans seemed to have no interest in negotiating or compromising. But that was not the most frightening news. Intelligence Chief Mordok materialized from the shadows where his species preferred to remain hidden. The information he brought would change everything. The humans are not acting alone. Mordok's whispered voice carried to every delegate in the chamber. They have formed alliances with 47 non-council species. These include beings we rejected for membership, and others we never knew existed. Together, they control over 100 star systems, and their combined military power exceeds our own. The shock was immediate and complete. Several alien delegates began emergency communications with their home worlds. Others simply sat in stunned silence as they tried to process what they had heard. The Council had always assumed that rejected species would remain scattered and powerless. The idea that they could unite under human leadership and become a threat to established galactic order was beyond their worst nightmares. How is this possible? Demanded the Zephyrian ambassador who had started the original crisis with humanity. We are the rightful rulers of this galaxy. We have maintained peace and order for 2 millennia. These primitive species cannot simply ignore our authority. Mordak's response was like ice water thrown on their remaining confidence. They are calling themselves the Coalition of Free Worlds. They offer membership to any species that wants independence from our regulations and restrictions. Their message is spreading to every corner of the galaxy, and more species are joining them every week. Meanwhile, in human space, the transformation was accelerating beyond anything the Council could have imagined. Admiral Tony Clark stood on the observation deck of the massive construction facility orbiting New Terra. Before him stretched the hull of humanity's first mobile space city. The installation was 20 kilometers long and 10 kilometers wide. It could house 5 million people and manufacture everything needed to support human civilization. Most importantly, it could travel between star systems carrying its entire population to new worlds and opportunities. This is just the beginning, Clark said to his chief engineer, Bob Johnson. We are building 12 more of these cities, and each one will be bigger and more advanced than the last. When they are finished, humanity will never again depend on fixed planetary bases that enemies can attack or blockade. The mobile cities represented a revolution in space-based civilization. They combined the best human technology with innovations shared by their alien allies. The Harmony Collective had provided communication systems that could coordinate activities across vast distances. The Forge Masters had contributed manufacturing techniques that could build anything from pure energy and raw materials. Each city was a self-contained world capable of supporting human life indefinitely. They had their own farms and factories and research laboratories. They could defend themselves with weapons more powerful than anything the Council possessed. Most importantly, they could move to wherever they were needed. Dr. Karen Davis was leading the terraforming revolution from her laboratory on Lunar Research Station. Her team had perfected techniques for transforming barren worlds into garden paradises in a matter of months rather than centuries. The methods were aggressive and dangerous by Council standards, but they worked with incredible speed and efficiency. We are not bound by their cautious conservative approaches anymore, Davis explained to her research team. We can use controlled nuclear explosions to adjust planetary orbits. We can release engineered bacteria to transform atmospheres. We can reshape entire continents using gravitational manipulation. The aliens always said these methods were too risky, but we have proven they work perfectly when applied correctly. The results were visible throughout human space. Dead worlds were blooming with earth plants and animals. Harsh desert planets were becoming green and fertile. Even gas giant moons were being converted into comfortable human habitats using techniques the Council had never dreamed possible. Governor Beth Martinez was expanding the Coalition of Free Worlds from her headquarters on New Arcadia. The complex now housed diplomatic missions from 60 different species. The variety of alien life forms was staggering even by galactic standards. The methane-breathing cold ones had joined after the Council rejected them for being too different from standard oxygen-breathing species. The living crystal formations called growth networks had been ignored because the Council did not recognize mineral-based life forms. The energy parasites, known as void feeders, had been hunted as dangerous pests until humans offered them a chance at peaceful coexistence. Each species brought unique abilities that strengthened the growing alliance. The cold ones could survive in environments that would kill any other known life form. The growth networks could build structures by simply growing them from raw materials. The void feeders could consume harmful radiation and convert it into Useful energy. The coalition offers what the Council never could. Martinez addressed the assembled delegates. True equality and respect for all forms of intelligent life. We do not try to force everyone into the same pattern. We celebrate diversity and use our differences to make everyone stronger. The message was resonating throughout the galaxy. Species that had been ignored or oppressed by the Council were sending secret diplomatic missions to human space. They brought offers of alliance and requests for protection from Council retaliation. Back on Earth, Director Helen Brooks was reviewing reports that exceeded her wildest expectations. The human population was now spread across 80 star systems. Industrial production was growing so fast that economists could not keep up with the numbers. Most importantly, the technological advances were making humanity unrecognizable from what it had been just 1 year before. Colonel Ryan Martinez entered her office with the latest intelligence from Council space. Ma'am, the aliens are incomplete. Panic mode. 5 more species have officially withdrawn from the Council to join our coalition. The economic disruption is causing civil unrest on dozens of worlds. Their military commanders are reporting that they cannot match our technological capabilities. Brooks smiled with deep satisfaction. Everything was proceeding exactly as she had planned. The Council's greatest weakness had always been their arrogance and inflexibility. They had assumed that their age and experience made them superior to younger species like humanity. They had never considered that innovation and adaptability might be more valuable than tradition and caution. What about their military response, she asked. Martinez consulted his tablet. They are mobilizing their largest fleet in over a century. General Voss is demanding permission to attack our outer colonies before we become too strong to defeat. But their politicians are afraid that open warfare might drive even more species to join our coalition. The Council was trapped between impossible choices. If they attacked humanity, they would be seen as the aggressors and might face a galaxy-wide rebellion. If they did nothing, the coalition would continue growing until it surpassed the Council completely. Admiral Sarah Brooks was commanding humanity's deep space fleet from the bridge of the flagship UES Sovereign. The director's daughter had proven herself to be a brilliant military strategist during the preparation for independence. 2 years had passed since humanity declared independence from the Galactic Council. The galaxy had been transformed in ways that no one could have predicted. The human-led coalition of free worlds now included 73 different species and controlled over 150 star systems. Their rapid expansion showed no signs of slowing down. Admiral Sarah Brooks stood on the bridge of the flagship UE Sovereign as it approached the edge of Council space. Behind her stretched the largest fleet humanity had ever assembled. But this was not an invasion force. This was a diplomatic mission that would demonstrate just how completely the balance of power had shifted. The massive fleet included ships from dozens of coalition species, the crystalline vessels of the Harmony Collective that sang as they moved through space, the living ships of the Bio Collective that grew instead of being built, the energy constructs of the light dancers that blazed like miniature stars. Together, they represented a power that dwarfed anything the Council could assemble. Incoming transmission from Council Station. Communications Officer Jake Peterson announced, Emergency Arbitrator Kelthara is requesting immediate diplomatic talks. Sarah smiled at the reversal of fortune. 2 years ago, humans had been junior members begging for scraps of respect from alien masters. Now those same aliens were desperately seeking human attention and approval. Put her through, Sarah ordered. The main screen flickered to life, showing the crystalline alien's stressed form. Kelthara was pulsing with colors that indicated fear and desperation. Admiral Brooks, the Galactic Council formally requests a diplomatic meeting to discuss renewed relations between our organizations. Kelthara's voice carried none of the arrogance. that had characterized Council communications in the past. We are prepared to offer significant concessions in exchange for normalized trade and cooperation. Sarah let the silence stretch for several seconds before responding. Her expression was cold and professional. Arbitrator, the Coalition of Free Worlds is no longer bound by Council authority or procedures. If the Council wishes to negotiate, they may submit a formal application for diplomatic consideration through our standard channels. The role reversal was complete and devastating. The once mighty Galactic Council was now begging for scraps of attention from their former subjects. The aliens who had treated humanity as barely civilized primitives were now forced to acknowledge Coalition superiority. On Earth, Director Helen Brooks was reviewing the final reports on humanity's transformation. The numbers were staggering even to someone who had planned and orchestrated the entire process. Human space now included 200 star systems. The population had tripled. Industrial production exceeded that of the entire Council by a factor of 5. Colonel Ryan Martinez entered her office with news that would have seemed impossible just 3 years earlier. Ma'am, we have received formal applications for coalition membership from the Centauri Federation and the Vegan Republic. They are willing to withdraw completely from the Council to join us. Brooks nodded with satisfaction. The two species had been among the Council's most loyal members for over 1,000 years. Their decision to abandon the organization that had given them status and power was the clearest possible sign that the old order was dying. What are their terms, she asked. Martinez consulted his tablet. They accept our standard membership requirements. No special privileges. Full compliance with coalition law. Equal representation in our democratic assembly. They are also offering to share all their advanced technologies and provide access to their industrial resources. This was exactly what Brooks had hoped would achieve. The coalition was not just replacing the Council, but surpassing it in every possible way. They offered true equality instead of hierarchical control. They encouraged innovation instead of stifling it with regulations. They celebrated diversity instead of demanding conformity. Meanwhile, the Council was facing complete organizational collapse. Emergency sessions were being held every day as member species announced their intention to leave. The trade networks that had supported galactic civilization for millennia were breaking down. Even basic services like interstellar communication and navigation were failing without the technical expertise that departing species had provided. Arbitrator Kelthara stood before a half-empty assembly chamber. Over half the seats were now vacant as species after species had chosen to join the coalition instead of remaining loyal to their ancient oaths. The remaining delegates looked old and defeated. We must face the reality of our situation, Kelthara announced to the sparse gathering. The Council as we have known it for 2,000 years no longer exists. We can either adapt to the new galactic order or face complete irrelevance. The admission was painful but necessary. The Council had lost its monopoly on galactic civilization. The coalition was now the dominant power and showed no interest in sharing authority with their former masters. Intelligence Chief Mordok materialized from the shadows with the final reports on coalition capabilities. The news was even worse than anyone had feared. The coalition now possesses technology that is centuries ahead of our own. Their mobile space cities can support billions of people while traveling between star systems. Their terraforming capabilities can transform dead worlds into garden paradises in weeks instead of centuries. Their military power exceeds anything we can deploy. The most humiliating development was that the Council had become dependent on coalition technology for basic survival. Their old systems were breaking down, and only human-designed replacements could keep critical services running. They were forced to purchase advanced equipment from the same species they had once treated as primitive newcomers. Captain Mike Williams commanded one of the coalition's new trade vessels that moved freely. through space without bureaucratic interference. His ship carried goods and technology between dozens of different species. The cargo holds were filled with innovations that would have been impossible under Council regulations. We can trade with anyone we want now, Williams explained to his crew as they approached another Coalition world. No permits required, no inspection, delays, no committee approvals. If a species wants our products and has something valuable to offer in return, we make a deal and everyone benefits. The economic transformation was as dramatic as the political changes. Coalition trade networks were growing faster than anyone could track. New markets were opening every week as species discovered the benefits of free commerce without bureaucratic interference. Dr. Bob Johnson was leading the technological revolution. From his expanded research facilities, his team had perfected fusion reactors that could power entire star systems. They had developed new materials that made their ships faster and stronger than anything else in the galaxy. Most importantly, they had created manufacturing systems that could produce anything needed by their rapidly growing civilization. The beauty of our situation, Johnson told his research staff, is that we are no longer limited by artificial restrictions on what we can study and develop. We can push the boundaries of science as far as our imagination and ability will take us. The results speak for themselves. Every day brought new breakthroughs that would have taken the Council decades to achieve. Human scientists were exploring dangerous technologies that alien regulations had forbidden. They were experimenting with forces and energies that traditional galactic civilization considered too risky to investigate. Engineer Lara Davis was building wonders that made Council architecture look primitive by comparison. Her construction teams were erecting cities that floated in the clouds of gas giant planets. They were building underwater complexes that harvested resources from ocean worlds. They were even constructing habitats in the vacuum of space that supported millions of people without any planetary support. We can build anywhere we want and however we want, Davis said as she surveyed her latest project. No safety inspectors telling us we are being too ambitious. No environmental committees demanding years of impact studies. If we can imagine it and engineer it, we can build it. The results were visible throughout Coalition space. Magnificent structures that combined human creativity with alien knowledge were rising on hundreds of worlds. Each new construction project pushed the boundaries of what was considered possible. Governor Beth Martinez was overseeing the expansion of the Coalition government from her headquarters on New Arcadia. The complex now housed diplomatic missions from over 90 different species. The variety of life forms represented the true diversity of galactic civilization that the Council had never been able to achieve. We have proven that cooperation is more powerful than control. Martinez addressed the Coalition Assembly. We have shown that freedom produces better results than regulation. We have demonstrated that respecting differences makes everyone stronger rather than weaker. The Coalition had become everything the Council claimed to be, but never actually achieved. It was a true representative democracy, where every species had an equal voice, regardless of their age or military power. It was a forum for peaceful cooperation that celebrated diversity instead of demanding conformity. It was an organization that encouraged innovation and exploration instead of maintaining the status quo.